SCP-2863. Shush. Do you hear that? That sound can only mean one thing. Someone is about to get boned. You see, somewhere in Japan, people said the wind sounded different, like someone shaking a bag full of loose chopsticks while walking on stilts. Most ignored it, brushing it off as tricks of the night, until someone finally looked up and saw something so large and so impossible that they never looked down again. Towering high above the treetops was a huge ass pile of human remains, stacked 30 meters high, with glowing eye sockets and blood-stained jaws. The SCP Foundation calls it SCP-2863, but the older name is Gasharakuro, and no matter what you call it, it always does the same thing. It waits until after sunset, picks a direction, and starts hunting. And I already hear you. Who cares? It's just bones. Yeah, Brenda. Try telling me that when it finds you, bites off your head in one clean snap, and somehow drains all your blood into its bones. Which, by the way, shouldn't even be physically possible. Because last time I checked, bones don't come with a digestive system. But anyways, instead of leaving you with a boner, this fella will leave you with just bones. So maybe Brenda was right all along. Luckily, there's a way to avoid this from happening. Mr. Bones seems to hate being in the spotlight, so the Foundation just floods the area with industrial strength lights until it vanishes. Personally, I think a comically oversized hammer and one good whack to the toe will do the trick.
Bloody hell!
SCP-002. If I disappear after this, you'll know why. Because they say curiosity kills the cat. But in this case, it turns it into a recliner. It all started when a shipping container built like a giant meatball fell from the sky and landed in a Portuguese village. If your first thought was, I need a bite, wait until you hear what happened to the curious farmer who found it. After attracting more people to the site, he went missing. Next, the villagers went missing. And the container? It's since redecorated itself with a brand new rug. You see, when you enter it, you'll find what looks like a small apartment. There's a couch, a rug, a bookshelf, even a beanbag chair tucked in the corner. Cozy, right? That is, until you take a closer look and realize every single item in that room is made out of human body parts. That beanbag chair over there? That's Steve. He went in 10 minutes ago. Luckily, the room only decorates with living humans. It doesn't care about animals, cadavers, or test dummies. But the moment a breathing person steps inside, the lights flicker, and when they come back on, the couch has one more cushion to sit on. Nowadays, the Foundation keeps it under control by plugging it into a constant power source and makes sure anyone who goes near it does so in pairs, just in case one of them suddenly turns into a lamp. But if the power ever cuts, the room wakes up. And this time, it wants more than just a rug. SCP-400. Warning. This one's extra disturbing, because the only thing worse than babies is babies full of insects. At first glance, SCP-400 looks like ordinary red-striped pill bugs. Nothing too haunting, right? Well, until you realize these buggers don't infest damp basements or rotting wood, they infest cribs. Usually, a swarm of 25 to 50 bugs shows up in the nursery of a newborn, sprays a mist that knocks the parents out cold, and then crawls straight inside the baby. In less than an hour, the infant is dead. But give it 3 hours and, surprise! The infant is suddenly crying again. Only this time, it's not a baby. It's an army of bugs. Or should I say, the infantry? If that isn't disgusting enough, nobody around it can tell. Thanks to a pheromone cognitohazard, the parents see a healthy, happy child. They can look straight at a rotting babe filled with bugs and be like, oh, so cute. Even worse, the mother still feels compelled to feed it. And during those feedings, some bugs crawl out, snack on her directly, and crawl back in like nothing happened. Weeks later, she'll give birth in her sleep, not to another child, but to 50 fresh pill bugs, ready to repeat the cycle. Nowadays, containment means sealed rooms, hazmat suits, and constant monitoring of daycare records. Because if these infestations spread, whole towns could end up raising dead babies without realizing it. But hey, the Foundation calls that progress in baby steps. Anyways, babysitting? Hard pass. SCP-2419. If you saw Gasharakuro and thought, damn, that's fire, this next SCP takes that a little too literally. Out in the hills of Colorado, there's a refinery that looks abandoned, just rusted pipes and smokestacks that never stop burning. But if you listen closely, you'll hear me crying in the corner because you're not subscribed yet. Just kidding, mostly. What you'll really hear is something inside. Scratching, screaming, clawing to get out. You see, the place was originally built to burn hazardous waste. Nothing too strange. Until the waste stopped being chemicals and started being people, specifically D-class test subjects. The Foundation would drain their happiest memories, bottle them into liquid amnestics, and toss the hollow shells into the fire. Unfortunately, they didn't stay dead. The bodies came back, regenerating inside the flames, laughing, screaming, and climbing toward the disposal chutes. And here, I thought skeletons were supposed to be dead quiet. These ones? Dead loud. Anyways, if you want to get rid of the pests, get ready to bring the heat. The only thing keeping thousands of these half-dead things under control is the fire itself, which means containment is simple but terrifying. Keep all 6 furnaces burning 24/7. Personally, I think asking them to chill out will do the trick, but I don't think they have the guts to do that. So yeah, if you ever get invited to a BBQ cookout near Colorado, maybe pass. Unless you're into eating ribs that scream back, then I would say bone appetite. SCP-1692. If you like getting down and dirty, you might be in luck. Though fair warning, this one doesn't just leave you with soiled pants, it leaves you buried in them. Imagine this, your cousin's been missing for months, one of those tragic small-town cases that fades into whispers, until one night there's a knock at your door. You open it, and unfortunately, there he is, smiling like nothing happened. Except, something doesn't look quite right, 'cause somehow, he's even uglier than you remember. You see, he used to be really down to earth. Now it looks like he just crawled straight out of it, with a bigger forehead and 3 extra fingers. Turns out, that's not far from the truth. The Foundation eventually traced him back to a swamp in Louisiana, where a sinkhole known as SCP-1692-2 festers beneath the fog. Get too close and you'll see someone waiting in the mist. A muddy little girl, a long-vanished hunter, or maybe the exact person you're searching for. And if you're dumb enough to follow, that will be the last decision you'll ever make. Because the ones who go in don't come out the same. Weeks, months, or even decades later, their bodies bubble back up from the pit, rearranged, mutated, sometimes stitched together wrong, sometimes speaking languages they never knew. Containment, at least, is simple. A fence, armed patrols, and a cover story about a nature reserve. Which, technically, it is, if you count mud-grown people as part of the wildlife. SCP-6670. Nothing wrong with some homegrown pride, right? Unless the thing you're proud of is a girl fused into the floorboards. You see, before she was part of the floor plan, she was Gemma, a girl who stood out for all the wrong reasons. By 2, she towered over kids twice her age, and she wasn't slowing down. One afternoon, Gemma crawled into a hole in the wall, where she unfortunately got stuck, and then she kept growing. When her mother couldn't pull her out, she did the obvious thing any responsible parent would do. She hid her in the walls. So, Gemma became part of the house. Her spine bent with the beams, her body expanding until she outgrew her room in the worst way possible. So yeah, go big or go home. Guess she did both. Her mom fed her through cracks, sang happy birthdays into the walls, and made tapes of a voice that shifted from, "Mommy, watch me," to, "Mommy, it hurts," until finally, just begging for food. By the early 2000s, the house itself was groaning, splitting apart. The last recordings are awful. The ceiling caving, bones breaking, and Gemma screaming as she crashes through the rooms. Her mother runs in, promising to catch her, but she's never seen again. Today, SCP-6670 still sleeps inside that rotting house. But in 2005, it stirred. A huge, deformed head pushed out the doorway, and in a little girl's voice, it whispered, "Mama, I'm so sorry," with a piece of hair still stuck between her teeth. SCP-4511. You all know Peppa Pig, right? This is her now. Feel old yet? Kidding. But if Peppa ever met this thing, it'd be a 1-episode special called Pork Chops. You see, this SCP is basically a 15-meter iron hog crammed into the basement of an abandoned Chicago meatpacking plant. Its belly glowing with a fire that hasn't gone out in decades. At first, they thought it was cult junk, but then it spat out an index card with the demand, "Feed me." And no, you can't just toss it a hamburger. One day it wants oil, next day pigs. Ignore it and things get ugly. So, naturally, some bright lad thought, let's experiment. So they tossed in oil drums. Want to know what came out? Bones. Toss in a German Shepherd, out came 7 teeth, 6 dog, 1 human. And when they shoved in a D-class, the machine leaked blood, oil, and pig urine. And DNA tests matched the lead researcher. But what's even worse is that people can't help but obey. Researchers, guards, even whole MTF squads feel compelled to feed it, like a factory god demanding worship. And all it gives back is noise, fluids, and corpses. Containment sounds simple. Lock the plant, guard the hog, toss back anything that crawls out. But the truth is, you can't really contain a furnace that writes its own grocery list. Play with fire, you get burned. Play with this pig, now you're
Is
a
this
sausage.
sausage?
SCP-6096. At this point, you're probably like, a freak under the sheets? Say less. But trust me, you'd rather get ghosted on Tinder than ghosted by this bad boy. And by bad boy, I mean a 1.5-meter tall figure permanently draped in a big white sheet. And no, nobody's ever managed to pull the sheet off. Not for lack of trying, but because you literally can't. Its anomaly makes it impossible for anyone to harm it. You can't stab it, you can't trick it, you can't even accidentally drop a piano on it. Your brain just refuses. And if you think you can see right through it, well, you can't, because it's wearing a blanket dummy. Usually, though, it's kind of chill. But every so often, it decides to go trick-or-treating. That's when it picks a random human anywhere in the world and starts walking, or should I say, floating. Now here's where it gets brutal. Anyone who sees it instantly knows who the target is. And worse, they feel compelled to help. Parents holding down their own child, friends sobbing while pinning you to the ground, all while the ghost drifts closer. When it reaches the victim, it pulls them under the sheet. They thrash and scream for about 30 minutes before vanishing completely. Then 6096 just settles back down, or floats, whatever. You get the idea. Anyways, you'd think containment would be easy, right? Wrong. The Foundation built it a cell. But when it wants out, they just escort it to its target like a celebrity. So yeah, that's the spirit, I guess. Jersey Devil. The story of the Jersey Devil begins, as all good horror stories do, with a really, really bad parenting decision. Back in the 1700s, there was a woman named Mother Leeds, living somewhere deep in the swamps of New Jersey. She already had 12 children, which, let's be honest, is 11 too many. And when she found out she was pregnant again, she reportedly threw her hands up and said, "Lord, let this one be a devil." Imagine being pregnant for the 13th time. Girl, I'd pray for a devil too. And you know what? For once, someone's prayer was answered immediately. So hell yeah, I guess. 9 months later, and you can probably guess what happened. Just kidding, she gave birth to a normal baby boy. For about 5 seconds. Then, the child's skin hardened like leather. His eyes turned red, wings tore through his back, and his legs twisted into hooves. Some say he killed everyone in the room before flying straight up the chimney. Others say he simply left, which frankly is what I'd do too after being born into that family. Since then, locals have sworn that something monstrous stalks the Pine Barrens. A flying, goat-like creature with bat wings, a horse's head, claws sharp enough to gut livestock, and a scream that could curdle milk. Over time, though, skeptics blamed it on birds, hysteria, and bad eyesight. But believers still say the devil's out there, gliding through the Jersey pines. Black Annis. Just outside Leicester, there's a place called Dane Hills, where beneath the last standing oak was a cave, said to be home to someone known as the Black Annis. I mean Annis. If you're confused, trust me too. Anyway, Black Annis is basically the boogeywoman of Leicestershire. And like every classic witch story, this one starts with an ugly old hag. And by old hag, I mean she had blue skin, claws like blades, and one unblinking yellow eye that shone through the dark. Honestly, I don't know why she's called Black Annis. By the sound of it, she's more Navy Annis. So yeah, according to folklore, she carved her own cave into the side of the Dane Hills with her iron claws. She didn't only pick it for the view, shocking I know, but also because it doubled as her favorite hunting spot. On dark nights, she'd crouch in the branches of her oak, perfectly still, waiting for a kid to wander below. No kids? No problem. She'd creep into the village, reach through open windows with those claws, and snatch whoever she could. By the time anyone woke up, she'd be back in her cave, skinning her prey, putting the meat aside for later, and slowly devouring what was left. The skins? Sewn into a skirt. So not only was she into recycling, she apparently also had a killer sense of style. Unfortunately, not everyone appreciated her fashion choices, so terrified locals started building their homes with tiny windows just to keep her arms out. If you ask me, the scariest part about this story is the thought of living in Leicester, the banshee. Shush. Do you hear that? Ah. Okay, that hurts. If your ears weren't bleeding from my dumb jokes, I bet they are bleeding now, and y'all better hope that scream was fake, because if it wasn't, someone's about to die. That sound you just heard? That's the calling card of the banshee. Depending on who you ask, she either appears as a gorgeous woman with flowing hair or an old crone, like that Annis woman. In Irish folklore, she's known for her dramatic screaming and crying. So, basically how my friends describe me. Anyway, her name comes from Bean Sida, meaning woman of the fairy mounds. Sounds kind of magical, right? Well, she was magical. Once. Originally, she was seen as one of the fair folk, a spirit tied to Ireland's ancient gods. But after a few centuries of Christian rebranding, the poor thing got demoted from divine goddess to ghost who screams at your house. Talk about a fall from grace. Luckily, it's not that she kills you or anything. She just shows up before someone dies, screams the bad news, then dips. Basically, the loudest Irish goodbye in history. But shockingly enough, she wasn't always feared. That wail was once an act of compassion, mourning the dead before anyone else could. In a way, she was Ireland's first grief counselor, just louder. So if you ever hear that wail echoing through the night, don't go looking. But if you ever do run into her, maybe give her a little shove off a bridge. Just hope she doesn't know how to banshee jump. Black-eyed children. You all know the black-eyed peas, right? This is them now. Feel old yet? I'm kidding, sorry. Though honestly, you'll wish the worst thing these kids did was sing boom boom pow, because there's only one thing worse than regular kids, and that's kids with completely black eyes. The stories always start the same. You're peacefully watching my videos late at night when there's a knock on the door. Right away, I've got a feeling tonight's not going to be a good night, because if you're dumb enough to open the door, you'll see two pale kids standing on your porch. They talk weirdly polite, monotone, usually asking to come in. It's all very please and thank you, until you notice something's off. Their clothes are outdated, their skin's too pale, and their eyes completely black. According to reports, they started showing up in the late 90s, always in pairs or trios, always asking for permission to enter. Like vampires, they can't come in unless you invite them. So I guess demons understand consent better than some people. Anyway, if you're still opening your door for random kids in the middle of the night, I don't know what to tell you. Natural selection, I guess. 'Cause when you let them in, you'll get sick, your pets might die, and your nightmares won't ever stop. So yeah, moral of the story? If a child ever knocks at 3 a.m., don't open the door. 'Cause people be killing and people be dying. And honestly, babysitting is not worth eternal damnation. Shirimi. You know how I told you about that Anise woman earlier? Yeah, well, she's absolutely gonna love this guy. Meet the Shirimi, Japan's most eye-opening yokai, and probably the only reason you'll ever want to wear pants again. From far away, he looks totally normal. Just a polite man in a kimono, strolling the quiet streets of Kyoto after dark. But then he approaches, bows like a gentleman, and softly asks,
Excuse me, do you have a moment to spare?
and before you can say yes, boom, he drops the kimono, bends over, and reveals his one glowing eye, right where the sun doesn't shine. That's right, this yokai literally has an eyeball in his butt. His name even translates to butt eye. Very creative, Japan. Now, before you panic, the Shirimi isn't dangerous. Well, except for your eyesight, maybe. But other than that, he doesn't attack, curse, or steal souls. He just moons people. For fun. No one really knows why he does it, but I bet he's seen some shit in his life. Anyway, maybe keep an eye out for strangers in kimonos late at night, or you'll end up in the world's worst staring contest. Best case, turn a blind eye and walk away, because if you don't, you'll see something you can't unsee. The Mothman. Picture this. It's 1966 in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, a quiet little town where nothing ever happens. Until one night, someone looked up and saw a giant man with wings and glowing red eyes. Naturally, the town freaks out, holds a meeting, and collectively decides to name it the Mothman. Because apparently, Lampshade Larry was already taken. So yeah, real spooky. Witnesses said he had wings 10 feet across, eyes that burned like taillights, and could fly faster than you ignoring the subscribe button. So hey, if you love my videos as much as this guy loves a porch light, maybe hit that button before he hits your window. Anyways, the first sighting happened when a bunch of gravediggers saw him hovering over a cemetery. And honestly, he's kind of hard to miss. After that, sightings exploded all over town. People saw him by the old TNT plant, flying over trees, even chasing cars down dark roads. Then, a year later, tragedy struck. The Silver Bridge collapsed, killing 46 people. Locals connected the dots and decided Mothman wasn't just a bug-eyed freak. He was a warning, a flying omen of doom. Of course, skeptics say it was probably just a big owl. Believers, however, call him an alien, a government experiment, or maybe even an omen that appears before tragedy. Either way, Point Pleasant turned him into a celebrity. They built him a shiny statue, complete with an ass Nicki Minaj would die for, and now host an entire Mothman festival every year. But if you ever spot him yourself, don't panic. Just turn off the light. Trust me, it's the only time avoiding responsibility might save your life. Skinwalker. All right, picture this. You hear scratching at your door, you peek outside, and your dog's there. Cute. Except he's standing on his hind legs, and he just rang the doorbell. What do you do? Now, if your first instinct is to open that door, honestly, same. Then I hate to break it to you. You just invited a skinwalker inside. The legend of the skinwalker comes from Navajo tradition, where they're known as Yi Naldlushi, which translates roughly to, with it, he goes on all fours. But long before they started to cosplay as your dog, they were once medicine people who used sacred rituals for healing. To no one's surprise, some got greedy. They decided to take on new hobbies like murder, grave desecration, and even cannibalism, all in the pursuit of forbidden power. And that's when they stopped being human and started being a furry. Well, sort of. It's said that to become a skinwalker, a witch must kill a close family member to gain the ability to shapeshift into any creature they choose. Coyotes, wolves, owls, anything they've imprinted on. They can also mimic voices, wear faces, and move just like us. Which is great news for my male viewers, since half of you wouldn't notice the difference anyway. Your partner could walk in with hooves and glowing eyes and you'd still be like, new haircut? But be mindful. Even talking about skinwalkers is taboo in Navajo culture, because saying their name gives them power. But don't worry, guys, I'm sure I'll be fine. Tokoloshe. In the still hours before dawn, when shadows stretch long and breath hangs in the air, the Zulu people say something else moves in the dark, something small, hairy, and very, very mean. They call it the Tokoloshe, a dwarf-like water spirit born from dark magic and bitter grudges. According to legend, a Tokoloshe is made by a shaman who's been wronged, using ashes, blood, and a hot iron poker driven through a corpse's skull. The sorcerer summons this creature to hunt his enemies, basically a spiritual hitman, but smellier and significantly less professional. And trust me, the stench is probably the least of your problems, because this lad doesn't just scare, it sneaks into homes, strangles sleepers, steals children, and twists dreams into sickness. And he does all that while looking like a mutilated goblin with hollow eyes and rotting teeth. Though other times, he's described as half bear, half human. Either way, you'll know it's been there, by the bite marks or the missing toes. Even today, it's still blamed for everything, from stolen jewelry to mysterious deaths. It's basically South Africa's all-purpose excuse. So next time your teacher asks why your homework isn't done, just shrug and say, Tokoloshe. Works every time. But if it comes for you, there's one trick that might save you. Raise your bed on bricks before sleeping, because apparently the Tokoloshe just can't jump that high. Jason Voorhees. Probably the only killer where I'm glad he's wearing a mask. Luckily, he absolutely makes up for it with his height, though. 6'5"? Hands where I can see them, girls. You'll need them for running, 'cause unlike Michael Myers, this dude sprints. If you don't know him, Jason is the main antagonist of Friday the 13th. But technically, the first killer wasn't Jason, it was his mom. She went full mama bear after the Camp Crystal Lake counselors let her son drown, and decided to take revenge on literally everyone who's ever touched a canoe. Jason was supposed to be dead too, but he somehow crawled out of the lake, lived in the woods, and took over the family business, slashing campers. For some reason, his entire personality is smash first, ask later. And you'll wish I was talking about the sexy kind, because somehow, this petty dude interrupts everyone trying to smash by smashing their head in. So he's basically the biggest cockblocker in history. And what's worse, he does it all while wearing a hockey mask. Probably because the only thing he's scoring is a kill count, not chicks. Now, Jason Forehead kills with machetes, sets traps, drags people across lakes. And somehow, no one's ever managed to land a clean hit on that massive five-head. I swear the guy could get shot, burned alive, nuked, and he'll still come back. You'd think someone with a skull that size would be an easy target, but nope. There he is again, ready for round 13. Survival chance? 40%. Just don't go to Camp Crystal Meth or whatever. Freddy Krueger. All right, everyone. The second character we're squaring up against is Freddy Krueger, who's basically a janitor-turned-serial killer who got torched by angry parents. I was gonna roast him, but it looks like someone already beat me to it. Anyway, he cut right through it and came back to chase his dream, which is chasing dreams. You see, he appears as a nightmare demon who kills people in their sleep, merging nightmare and reality. Honestly, one look at him already confirms why he came back. He's an absolute nightmare to look at. I bet this man is just trying to avoid his own biggest nightmare, owning a mirror. Haha, get burned, Freddy. Oh, wait. His powers include shape-shifting, manipulating environments, controlling time, and killing people in their dreams, which instantly kills them in the real world. If your first thought was, damn, that's fire, no dummy, he's on fire. Stay present. And what really baffles me is that this dude actually thinks he's the man of your dreams. Out here spitting the dumbest bars like, 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. First of all, talking about yourself in third person is weird as hell, but so is looking like a pepperoni pizza. So anyways, here is my line.
1, 2, Freddy Krueger. Who? 3, 4. What you wearing that ugly sweater for? 5, 6. For that face, there's no fix. 7, 8. Bro thought he ate. 9, 10. Never show that burnt ass again.
Survival chance, 50%. Just stay awake, bro. Pennywise. Pennywise, or Dollar Genius, or whatever they call him, is literally a cosmic fear parasite who fell out of space and into a sewer. From there, he likes to lure kids in, sometimes using a red balloon. But if you find yourself chasing his massive balloon head instead, I can't blame you. Afterwards, he'll shapeshift into whatever scares you most. According to him, fear salts the meat. So apparently, white people will do anything except use a little seasoning in their actual cooking. Luckily, though, half the time, you don't even know who he's threatening. If he's like, I want to eat you, I'm going to need clarification. Me or the guy standing behind me? And honestly, I'm not sure how this dude's able to lure so many kids. Like, for some reason, y'all love to hang out at the local crackhead sewer shack in the middle of the woods? Honestly, I'm not doing that. There's a McDonald's down the street which I feel is going to be just as fun and more safe. They even have a clown over there too. But if you ever run into Nichols Mart, it's super easy to survive. Just stand there and say, "You don't scare me," and he'll literally disappear. This is the same dude who got beaten up by a group of kids who call themselves the Losers Club. So yeah, just drop him at a girl's sorority house, and he won't stand a chance. Survival chance? 60%. 100% if you subscribe right now. Otherwise, you'll float too. Ghostface. All right, next up is a killer who somehow made a whole franchise out of tripping over furniture. If that doesn't ring a bell, Ghostface is basically a rotating cast of idiots in the same costume. Every movie, someone new throws on the mask, grabs a knife, and acts like they're the main character. So, we're dealing with a horror villain who's basically a community project. Guess they were all screaming for attention, huh? He's known to stalk his victims over the phone, loves to ask dumb movie trivia before attacking, and uses a voiceover to sound scary. Probably because
What are you watching, Cindy?
doesn't exactly send chills down anyone's spine. Now, Ghostface doesn't have powers, super strength, or even basic coordination. This guy is literally stupid as hell. He's constantly falling downstairs, slipping on blood, or getting hit by household objects. Hell, he'll probably even trip over a banana if you let him. My best bet is to throw a bottle, a bookshelf, or even your grandma. Anything will slow this dude down. And if you have enough stamina to run for at least 30 seconds, you're probably fine. And yet, somehow, he keeps coming back. He's been shot, stabbed, tased, and unmasked more times than Scooby-Doo villains, and people still act surprised when he pops up again. Honestly, the only good thing this killer has brought us is masked thirst traps on TikTok and Billy Loomis. So yeah, that says a lot. Survival chance? 98%. The only thing scary about Ghostface is how many sequels they keep making. Michael Myers. Michael Myers is proof that being tall isn't everything. Because this guy has absolutely no personality or speech for that matter. He basically went non-verbal mode and ran with it. And I swear, that's the only time you'll see him running. He's the face of the Halloween franchise and the blueprint for every slasher villain that came after. His tragic backstory is that one Halloween night, 6-year-old Michael walked upstairs, put on a clown mask, and stabbed his sister 17 times for absolutely no reason other than vibes. He obviously ended up in a loony institution, escaped 15 years later, and decided to dedicate his life to speed walking and homicide. What's crazy, though, is that this dude has absolutely no skills other than being unkillable. That's it. No speed, no persona, maybe some stamina. But immortality? Hell yeah! He's been stabbed, shot, burned, beaten, blown up, and thrown off buildings and still comes crawling back. Honestly, he's the kind of guy who could fall into a wood chipper, get stung by a swarm of bees, have a piano dropped on his head, and still walk it off like it was a mild inconvenience. But let's be real. Half the fear comes from that scary Halloween soundtrack. Luckily, I can fix that. And now that we've seen him walking, are we sure no one could outrun him? If he were any slower, he'd be going in reverse. So, if you still trip and die, that's just natural selection. Survival chance? 20% if you ask me. Just walk slightly faster in the other direction. Chucky. Chucky is a 2-foot-tall doll with a kitchen knife and the soul of a grown-ass man who died in a toy store. So now we're dealing with a child predator, a voodoo specialist, and worst of all, a ginger. Originally, he was Charles Lee Ray, aka the Lakeshore Strangler, who got gunned down in 1988. But instead of dying like a normal person, he decided to pull a seance in aisle 6. Using Damballa voodoo and absolutely zero consent, he transferred his soul into a good guy doll. Now he's out there stealing other souls. Maybe because he doesn't have one. But mind you, he's only 29 inches tall, which might sound impressive in some departments. But in this one, it would mean he's got absolutely no shit on you. His Barbie ass literally has to ask you to pass him the knife before he kills you, because clearly he can't reach that high. But despite his obvious limitations, Chucky's racked up a higher kill count than most horror icons, by stabbing, exploding, even electrocuting. And yet, no one ever thinks to kick him across the room? That's where the real horror comes in. No one ever just punts this dude. We're talking about a literal toy. And somehow, cops, priests, and teenagers are all like, oh no, how will we stop him? Chucky literally yells before attacking. You can hear him coming. He shuffles like he's wearing 2 left shoes and still manages to sneak up on people. Survival chance? 99%. A literal child can beat this doll. Samara. Hello?
You're gonna die in 7 days.
And here I thought I was getting a booty call. Anyways, if you're as confused as I am, allow me to explain. Once upon a time, there was this weird little girl who killed like 30 horses, which probably pissed off the PETA gods so bad that her mom said, all right, that's enough, and yeeted her straight into a well. She stayed down there for 7 days, died, and then came back as the world's most annoying telemarketer. So guess she didn't age well. Apparently, she's now spending her afterlife hunting down anyone unlucky enough to watch her cursed VHS tape. The moment you hit play, she'll call you, give you 7 days to live, and then crawl out of your TV looking like she came straight out of Pennywise's sewer. Upon seeing her, you'll literally die of terror, which, let's be honest, doesn't surprise me. I bet this girl's seen more dead people than shampoo, and if she doesn't kill you with her hands, that privy breath probably will. One sniff and I'll be like, but honestly, I'm just surprised no one's tried to beat her ass or at least pull her hair. It's too easy. This girl's a literal child. She's not scary. She's just long overdue for a haircut. If you ask me, just put your TV on a balcony and wait for 7 days. Good luck crawling in the air, dumbass. Survival chance, 70%. Just say you're not interested and hang up the phone. Leatherface. Ah, yes. Leatherface. The man who invented face swap before Snapchat filters were even a thing. If that doesn't sound familiar, he's the big guy from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. A dude who turned family dinner into a full-time job. He lives out in rural Texas with his equally unhinged family, where they hunt, butcher, and eat anyone dumb enough to wander onto their property. If you ask me, none of this would have happened if people just stayed in their goddamn house. You see a farmhouse full of bones hanging from the ceiling? Maybe turn around. And if your first thought is, let's split up, get ready to face the consequences, because now you're going to be split up by a chainsaw, which is extra embarrassing considering this man doesn't even have a plan. He just screams, waves a chainsaw around, and somehow people still die. Honestly, I don't even know how he managed to kill so many people. Like, this all happens in Texas, right? You'd think folks down there would be prepared. Don't y'all all own like 10 guns each? Anyway, his whole deal is that he wears many faces. Literally. He cuts off people's faces and wears them like wigs. Sort of. Guess he's just never been comfortable in his own skin. And yet, he's managed to survive every reboot, remake, and sequel. So, yeehaw, I guess? Survival chance? 55%. But if you hear a chainsaw rev up behind you, well, let's face it, you're screwed. SCP-2331. SCP-2331 is a scarecrow with a glowing pumpkin head whose sole purpose in life is to boogie. But before he became the boogeyman in the fun sense, he was the boogeyman in the literal one. Mostly for crows. Back in the day, he was the spirit of autumn itself, and his job was simple: scare birds, bring the harvest, and look seasonal. But being the diva he is, he eventually got bored of standing around and getting shat on by crows. So naturally, he did what any self-respecting spirit of autumn would do. He threw a rave. So instead of the boogeyman, he became a boogeyman, now known as Scarecrow. SCP-2331 hosts spontaneous underground raves across North America, from abandoned barns to college gyms, complete with fire hazards, pulp fiction, and enough bass to wake the dead. Reports indicate that partygoers under his influence experience mild euphoria, loss of inhibition, and an uncontrollable urge to dance. Foundation researchers suspect mild mimetic mind control, though the vibe's so immaculate they can't prove it. Containment has proven complicated. Every time agents try to shut down one of his sets, they end up on the dance floor, waving glow sticks and shouting, "One more song!" One operative even made contact with Scarecrow, only for him to hand over a business card with someone else's number on it. So now the Foundation officially classifies SCP-2331 as non-hostile but extremely distracting. And their strategy is simple. Show up, dance along, and clean up afterward. Because as it turns out, you can't stop the rave. You can only pump up the jam. SCP-330. Every horror story needs a moral. And this one's simple. Greed gets you amputated. Picture this. It's Halloween night, you're out trick-or-treating, and you stumble across a bowl of candy sitting on a porch. There's a note taped to it that reads, "Please take 2. Now, if your first thought is, cute, let's take the whole bowl, I hate to inform you, you just donated both your hands to science. Because the moment you grab that third piece, it's swish, slash, swoon. And now, your hands are gone. So yeah, you thought it was harmless, and now you're armless. See, SCP-330 is literally just a stainless steel bowl filled with assorted candies. Beside it sits that same handwritten note. Take no more than 2, please. And here's the catch. It can't be removed, covered, or ignored. Everyone who gets close to it automatically reads it, whether they want to or not. And if you think you can outsmart it, say, by using robot arms or your buddy's hand, you're still getting disarmed. Like, literally. The effect doesn't care how you grab it, only how many. On the bright side, the rule resets every 24 hours. So if your sweet tooth's stronger than your survival instinct, just wait a day. And luckily, containment, thankfully, is simple. The Foundation keeps it locked up in storage with a label that basically says, hazardous food item. Keep your hands to yourself. Let's just say, after a few too many failed experiments, the Foundation's running short on high fives. SCP-2287. If you've ever heard the phrase, "No, I'm not giving you head," you'll probably relate to this SCP. Another product of Dr. Wondertainment, as proudly stamped on his lower back, SCP-2287 is a headless man known as Mr. Headless. He was originally designed as a Halloween special, a spooky porch prop that was supposed to sit still all night, then jump up and scare trick-or-treaters. But as usual, the good doctor got a little ahead of himself. And instead of a simple decoration, he created a decapitation with personality. Despite desperately needing a head, Mr. Headless functions perfectly fine. He can talk, hear, smell, and even crack a joke. He just can't see, eat, or, think straight. Oh, and he claims to survive through amplified photosynthesis, which I can only assume means his brain's running on vitamin D. And no, not that one. Direct observation of his headlessness is impossible. Anyone who looks at him perceives a headless version of themselves, as if seen from his perspective. Although I'm not sure how he can have a perspective if he claims to be legally blind. So I guess the logic flew over his head. Still, he's polite, harmless, and surprisingly zen about the whole missing head thing. These days, he chills in containment, reading braille books and burning incense. And if he ever decides to escape, the Foundation should probably just give him a head start. So keep your head up, buddy. You might have lost it, but at least you're still ahead in spirit. SCP-3540. This wholesome anomaly is proof that even the dead need a little rest sometimes. Once a year, somewhere in suburban America, a random abandoned house gets a full Halloween makeover, complete with cobwebs, carved pumpkins, flickering lights, and 2 very unusual tenants. Meet Morris and Lance, a happily married pair of Grim Reapers, who just happen to be, dead. So yeah, when someone said, "Remember, son, dying is gay," this is probably what they meant. Every October, the couple takes the month off to redecorate, unwind, and haunt responsibly. By day, they vanish without a trace, leaving only dead silence. But once the sun sets, they reappear, sitting on the porch, sipping tea, and quietly judging your costume choices. Inside, they're the perfect picture of domestic afterlife, cooking, cleaning, and occasionally arguing over whose turn it is to raise the spirits. When agents first made contact, Maurice and Lance welcomed them in for tea, and even served their signature chicken parmesan that's, quite literally, to die for. After that, the Foundation realized containment wasn't so much about control as it was about courtesy. Their job now is simple. Track the house, make sure the neighbors don't notice, and wipe memories when November rolls around. Because once the month ends, the 2 pack up their bones, close the curtains, and head back to work. Just another day on the grind, a stone. Or should I say, the gravestone. SCP-2523. If you thought the prices at Spirit Halloween were scary, wait until you see the store where buying something will cost you an arm or leg. And yes, I mean that literally. Every Halloween, a handful of seasonal Halloween stores across the US and Canada turn into a shared reality-bending shopping mall, all connected at once. When the clock strikes sunset on October 31st, the human staff vanish, and in come their replacements. 1-meter-tall goblins with twiggy limbs, terrible posture, and the enthusiasm of minimum-wage employees who actually like their job. They'll greet you politely, offer you candy, and convince you to buy that fake vampire cape. Not with cash, but with something a little more personal. Your hair, your memories, a few years of your life. Hell, they'll even take your kid if the deal's good enough. But unfortunately for you, everything in the store has a hidden clause, and the return policy is brutal. You trade your empathy for a decorative mirror? Cool. Now, the only things you can see in it are your dead relatives. Buy fake fangs, and you'll suddenly crave blood. The trades can cause anything from chronic pain to lifelong bad luck. So my luck in relationships? Still the same. Obviously, containment is a nightmare. The Foundation tracks the stores, intercepts customers, and wipes memories afterward. Anyone who trades non-monetary goods gets quarantined for 366 days. Afterwards, their memory resets, and they'll go right back to life, blissfully unaware that they just traded their kid for 20% off seasonal decor. SCP-3992. What if Halloween wasn't just for kids, but for the monsters hiding under their beds? That very thought had Dr. Wondertainment in a chokehold, so naturally he did the most obvious thing. Create a set of Halloween masks for creatures who just want to fit in for one night. The Foundation recovered these masks alongside a handwritten note from Dr. Wondertainment himself, which basically said, "I don't want the ugly kids to be left out this Halloween." Heartwarming in a deeply unethical kind of way. Each mask looks ordinary enough. Cheap plastic, stretchy string, the kind of thing you'd find in a discount bin in that goblin Halloween store. If a human wears it, nothing happens. But here's the trick, or treat, depending on your species. If an anomaly wears it, they're in for a full makeover. The moment they put it on, they instantly appear as a human child wearing a matching costume. Put on a vampire mask, and boom, you've got yourself a tiny Dracula. Slip on a chicken mask, suddenly you're dressed exactly like one of my subscribers. The transformation's purely visual, though. To everyone else, the anomalies just look perfectly human. So now, even SCP-096 can finally enjoy a happy Halloween without feeling the need to scream in someone's face and rip their head off. Isn't that wholesome? Unfortunately, the Party Pooper Foundation keeps the masks safely locked away at Site-17. Personally, I say let the monsters have their candy. They've earned it. Because sometimes, Halloween isn't about hiding what's scary. It's about giving even the scariest things a chance to feel human again. SCP-2006. If there were ever an SCP built for Halloween, it's this one. A shape-shifting entity whose entire purpose is to scare people. The problem? It has zero idea what actually scares humans. It tries really, really hard, but the best it can do is turn into low-budget horror villains from movies that got 8% on Rotten Tomatoes. Its favorite form is Ro-Man, the gorilla suit with a fishbowl helmet from the 1953 disaster robot monster. So yes, the deadliest thing about SCP-2006 might just be secondhand embarrassment. In its true form, SCP-2006 is just a floating morphing sphere, capable of changing shape, mass, and voice at will. So in theory, it could become anything it wants. In practice, it mostly walks around yelling things like, "Behold, human, tremble," while dressed like a Halloween prop from that goblin store. Technically, though, it's indestructible with no known weaknesses, which is why the SCP Foundation takes no chances. Containment is basically method acting. Every staff member near it has to pretend to be terrified. It's shown bad horror movies on a monthly basis to keep its scare standards low, and no one is allowed to let it know how ridiculous it is. Because if SCP-2006 ever discovers what actually frightens humans, like war, isolation, or running out of Wi-Fi, we're all doomed. SCP-097. If you're a kid who loves pumpkin pie, carnivals, and permanent disappearance, then this old fairground is for you. Its only cost? Your life. Hidden somewhere in the American Midwest, SCP-097 is a 10-acre patch of cursed farmland that once hosted a county fair back in 1969, until the pumpkins took over. The place is now crawling with deformed gourds the size of small cars, twisting together into a maze of vines and rot. And at the center of it all sits the main attraction, SCP-097-1, a 24-foot-tall, 15-ton monstrosity affectionately nicknamed Gourdzilla. If your first thought was, "Ooh, pumpkin spice frappuccino?" Say less! Yeah, try saying that again when you're the one getting turned into spice. Because this pumpkin doesn't serve frappes, it serves children. You see, every year, between April and November, the area wakes up. Strange carnival music plays, lights flicker, and nearby children begin to sleepwalk. By late summer, they start heading straight toward the patch, sometimes from miles away. When they arrive, they sit before Gourdzilla and start singing nonsense. Then ghostly kids crawl out of the pumpkins to join hands. The real child wakes up just in time to realize they're the main event. And the ritual ends with the victim getting fed to the big pumpkin, and the choir vanishes back into the vines. So now, containment involves a concrete wall and a strict no kids allowed policy. Any children found wandering are immediately vaporized by the Foundation. Kidding, they're just escorted to the nearest police station before someone else decides to harvest them. And that wraps up our Halloween SCP lineup. Before you head out, sorry, Mr. Headless, make sure to like, subscribe, and check out the next video.